I had decided to spend my Saturday morning washing my car, the kind of therapy I rarely allowed myself in the chaos of work and home. The sun blared off the polished hood as I ran the sponge over every curve, my mind partly wandering, partly fixated on the mundane. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a vibration that barely registered over the gentle hum of water. Pulling it out, I saw a notification from my bank's app. My wife's credit card had been used. Normally, this wouldn't have bothered me, she often shopped online, but the location and the merchant name made my stomach twist. The alert was for a boutique downtown, one I knew she never visited. My first thought was curiosity, my second, a prickle of suspicion. I paused, sponge in hand, fingers trembling slightly as I opened the transaction details. The amount was large, enough to raise eyebrows even if it had been a legitimate purchase. But what made my blood run cold wasn't the money, it was the time and place. I pulled up the GPS location of the boutique and froze. It wasn't downtown like I had assumed, it was in the part of the city notorious for nightlife, the kind of place couples didn't frequent for ordinary shopping. A pit grew in my stomach. I tried to convince myself it was innocent. Maybe she had run an errand I didn't know about, a last-minute gift, something reasonable. But the nagging sense that I was stepping into a nightmare I didn't want to face wouldn't leave me. I grabbed my keys and drove toward the address, my mind racing. The drive felt impossibly long, each stoplight like a countdown to a truth I wasn't sure I could handle. When I arrived, the boutique was closed, its dark windows reflecting my anxious face. I leaned against the car, heart hammering, trying to reason with myself. But then, across the street, I saw movement, figures slipping into a small, dimly lit cafe I didn't recognize. I squinted, adjusting to the bright sunlight, and my heart stopped. It was her. My wife. Laughing, leaning close to a man whose face I didn't need to see to know he wasn't a colleague or a friend I recognized. There was an intimacy, the kind that makes your chest tighten with betrayal. My hands shook, and I gripped my steering wheel as I watched them disappear inside the cafe. I parked a block away and cautiously walked closer, pretending to be a passerby, heart pounding in my ears. From a distance, I could see their reflections in the window, see the way he put his arm around her shoulder, feel the weight of every second of what I was witnessing. It was clear, undeniable, and it made me feel sick. I stepped back, trying to gather my thoughts. Part of me wanted to storm in, confront them, make a scene. Another part, the part that had been numbed by years of love and routine, wanted to disappear, to pretend I hadn't seen a thing. But one thing I knew, I couldn't ignore it. Not now, not ever. I went home, my mind racing, my stomach knotted. I couldn't bear to confront her blindly. I needed evidence, proof beyond the gut-wrenching certainty that had already taken hold of me. My hands shook as I pulled out her phone from the drawer she thought was hidden from me. My heart pounded as I unlocked it with the passcode I had memorized, my mind a whirl of betrayal and disbelief. There it was, messages, explicit and intimate, the kind no husband ever wants to find. They had been planning meetings, laughing about secrecy, even sharing photos that made me want to retch. My wife, the woman I had trusted, the woman I had loved with every fiber of my being, was living a life I had never been part of. My head spun as I scrolled through hours of conversations, each one confirming what I had already seen across the street, each one a stab to my chest. I felt a strange mixture of rage and numbness. Rage at the audacity, the lies, the betrayal. Numbness because part of me had known, had sensed the distance in her eyes, the excuses, the late nights that never added up. But the confirmation, the proof, was something I hadn't prepared for. I sat down at the kitchen table, trying to breathe, trying to think. I needed a plan, a way to respond that was deliberate, not reactionary. I couldn't let this destroy me completely. My mind went through every possible scenario. Confrontation now might lead to a scene, a public argument, possibly her lying outright. I needed leverage, clarity, something that would make the truth undeniable. I decided to wait. I tracked the next time her card was used, noting the recurring pattern, the late-night trips, the messages that always followed. Each one added to the mountain of evidence I was quietly gathering, each one confirming the betrayal I had dreaded but somehow feared to face fully. Days passed. I watched, I listened, I recorded. I didn't confront her immediately, I let her believe her secret was safe, while I carefully documented everything. And then, one evening, I called her. I asked her casually about her day, about her errands, about the places she had gone. She lied, of course, smoothly and confidently, as if I were a fool to even ask. I smiled quietly to myself, a hollow, bitter smile. I had everything I needed. The card alerts, the photos, the messages, the receipts, the undeniable proof of her duplicity. The woman I had trusted with my life had betrayed me in ways that cut deeper than I could have imagined. And now, the next steps were mine to take. I didn't need to shout, didn't need to cry. The evidence would speak for itself. I would confront her, not in a moment of blind rage, but in a moment of calculated truth, where the lies she thought she had buried would be laid bare. And in that moment, she would see what I had seen, the ultimate betrayal, the shattering of trust that could never be rebuilt. As I stood by my car once more, cleaning the last speck of dirt from its surface, I realized something chilling. My life as I had known it was over. The woman I had loved, the life I had shared, the trust one had given freely, they were gone. All that remained was the evidence, the truth, and the cold, simmering clarity that I was no longer a victim of ignorance. And in that clarity, I felt a strange, grim power. Because now, knowing, seeing, documenting, I was ready. Ready to confront, ready to reclaim, ready to make sure that the betrayal, so carefully hidden, would no longer have a place in my life. The card alert had been the trigger. The reality, the poison. But the future, that was mine to control.